And this is part 90, hard to believe, part 90 of this FZR restoration. What's amazing to me is we're in our the end of the third month of working roughly 4 hours a day on a project, 3 to 4 hours a day. And dealing with a lot of little, unpredictable things. One of them, of course, is the weather. But every restoration is its own story and its own little personality, and this one is certainly evolving into being, he's in good company out here in the garage. Now, I like to think of it that every one is a unique adventure, a unique chapter in my life, and maybe that's why I never sell any of them. And just like children, I love them all. So based on the fact that the weather is absolutely crappy and no way I'll be able to paint today, no matter what, my goal here is to find something I can do to fill up this little day of work. I originally had scheduled working on the polishing the frame on this side. I have half of it polished, but it's just too cold out here. It really is cold. And it's really no secret when it's cold. When you got to chop ice on a pond, it's cold. Now, I start every day in the shop, of course, with a big cup of coffee. And I try to look at the work from the last couple of days, last week or so. Get a little motivation to get going here. And every time I look at Steve's stuff, I just think, wow, this is going to be one of the nicest little ninjas at the village market. If they have that little contest that they have every year, he'll be in contention, I hope. The panel we worked on a few days ago, and we took advantage of those. We had 2 really good painting days. Boy, and that went away. That slipped away. Wow. Now, on my personal workbench, I actually probably could, well, I'd rather, see, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to sequence things out. These 2 parts got painted on the same day. I would like to give them an extra couple of days of being up under the heating vent. Now, what it means is this part is done and buffed, ready to put back on the motorcycle. Fender is, all those parts. But I still have, here's the thing, I still have 1 side fairing to wet sand out. And this is going to be between 2 and 3 hours of sanding. I didn't want to start it today, but I guess I will, because we're going to have company later, and I don't know what time they're going to be here. And it used to be in the past I'd never be comfortable doing, I'd start a sand out and have to finish in that session. Well, I'm going to start this. I probably won't get it done in this session, but it really doesn't matter. We're at a point in the year, even if this were done, I'm not going riding today. Now, the first thing I do remember when we painted these, we had a real orange peel issue because it was really windy and blowing, and I see we have a lot of dust in the part. But I'm going to do this methodically. I'm going to section it off 1 section at a time. I'll start here at the bottom, work over the decals. See, some of the parts have a lot of orange peel. Really doesn't matter. With 1200 sandpaper, it's going to sand out relatively easily. But it's still something that I just can't do. I won't be able to finish it in this session. Again, that's the way my life has been. Well, it's been that way for a long time. I enjoy having a company, and to be honest, I think we're going to the Texas Roadhouse tonight. I don't know yet. Before I get started here, I wanted to mention something that worked out way better than I thought it would. I got this mat, a 4x8 sheet of this foam matting. Actually, Turbo Steve was using it when he was here. And because I stand most of the time I'm working here, not all, but most, what this does, I want to show this. This is really something. This was $16 at amazing saving. It's a soft, cushiony type of matting, and when you have a job where you have to stand for any length of time, boy, that's nice. And today for, well, until we get ready to go out, this is going to be it. But I can get some of it done. I'm not going to rush it, but I will get it started today. By the way, what's good, any of the water that drips on the floor here, this wipes right up with just with a damp sponge or a wet towel or whatever. Plus it's nice to stand on if you have extended standing at the workbench. So for this part of the job I'm going to use 1200 Merca. This one sanding nail file is really, I've gotten so much use out of this, it's ridiculous. Karen donated a used one. I don't know what she was doing, polishing furniture or something with this, but it came from a place called Harmon. So she goes there all the time. I'm gonna get some of these. This one feels a little stiffer than the other one, but it's still a waterproof. They're made to be that you can wet sand with them, I guess. And this one has proven to be invaluable, but again, they're about 50 cents a piece, and they work great. They're perfect when you got a wet sand a part like this. Now the big soft block, one of the few areas you can do that I can do with this, is over the decals. And what this does, I tried to explain this on a previous video. You gotta grab this. It's going to, the decals themselves, this will get the whole decal flat, but it really won't go down in between the letters. That I have to do by hand. So the first part of this, and I'm going to do this very carefully, of course, as this is the last part. We're going to sand and buff and whatever. And once these parts are done, there's a lot of little other details to do, of course, but then I'll start the final assembly of the bike. And then, depending on how much time is left, see if some of the other things I wanted to do are going to be appropriate. I wanted to make up a set of gold wheels. I don't know if that's going to be I'm going to have a time window enough to do it before spring gets here. Now see, what that does, that makes everything flat. Now, but the reality is, you've got to really get down in between the letters by hand before you can really get that flat. And I always prefer doing one little spot at a time. Whenever I've tried to do a giant part at once, it never works out. I'm never happy with the result anyway. Anyway, this is going to be just a redundant, boring time until Ted and Barbara get here, and I'm getting hungry already. I love the Texas Roadhouse. The Texas Roadhouse doesn't always love me though. And when we used to go to the Model Plane Championships, there was a Texas Roadhouse right there in Muncie, Indiana. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we have one right by our house. So anyway, I'm going to do the rest of this, see how much of this I can get done today before it's time to take a break. But the first thing I'll do is go over both of the decals, because that's, to me, that's the most critical part of this. I want that to be as flat and perfect as I can possibly make it. Not sure if you can see the edge of the decal up here. Now see, I can get that by hand. If I were to block sand this, what will happen is I'll go through the tip of the letters. I'll make a problem. So when I'm going to do this, what I want to do, and I want to do it by hand very, very carefully along the edge. Uh-oh, it sounds like Ted and Barbara are on their way over here. Now, because we're going to put more clear on top of this, I don't want to run the risk of breaking through an edge on a decal, so I'll just be a little careful. I'll do the same thing with the FZR. That one, if I break through on that and I have to touch it up, it'll be a major, major problem. So I'd rather be on a conservative side. I'm going to get a lot more clear on top of this. And then when I do the 2500 sand out, it'll be a piece of cake. So this turned out to be a good investment of time. This decal area is sanded. That one's sanded. Now I can start picking. The next time I get a chance to work on this, pick piece by piece. Make sure I've got all the stripes buried, but I'm so hungry now I can taste that Texas Roadhouse. Woo! So in case you've never been to the Texas Roadhouse, this is the best steaks around. Hey, and while I'm at the Roadhouse, maybe I can get a job and make some money too. Anyway, the food here is great. I love it. Now, we had a great night at the Roadhouse. Oh, I still have indigestion, but it's time to get back to this. Now, I just got today's weather report. Chance of snow tonight, so I thought two things. I can get this done, and I hopefully get that all sanded out and get the clear on that today. Now what happened after looking at these parts really carefully on the fluorescent light, a couple of them needed, one of the side covers had some looked like dust or something that had dried in it. Not a big deal, but since I'm going to be shooting clear today, I'll get clear on that too. And the sun is just coming up over the neighbor's house, so I assume this is going to be, well, at least paintable. It's 24 degrees now, but it's supposed to go up into the 30s, so we'll get the rest of that sanding done, get some painting done today. So once I set up a goal for a day like today, and I know I'll be able to paint. Now this is going to be the last, hopefully the last paintable day that I have to shoot clear on this, and from this point on it'll be all sanding and buffing. It's just nice to see Steve's project coming to nice fruition at the end, and some of the things, the final paint on this really does look nice. We've had a couple little repairs. I'm going to do the rest of these little repairs today. As long as I have the clear in the gun and I'm out there freezing, I may as well get it done. And I hope, I know, I don't have to hope, I know Steve is really going to be proud of this bike once he gets it put together. He's got the headlights on already. He's got those little dual headlights. It's going to be a cool little bike. This is always the success of getting extra work done. Now, I'm carefully paying attention to the weather. It's coming up on being over freezing. So I will hopefully get this and get Steve's parts touched up today. But I'm just going to take my time here. When a part has a lot of orange peel like this does, and a lot of the dust that's in here, I'd like to get it all out. I'd like the whole part to be flat. I'd like, of course, not be able to feel that at all. And it goes pretty quick as long as you divide it up into parts. When you try to do, if you try to do this, it just makes you crazy. This is where this tool is really, really handy for getting in these nooks and crannies around these half-curved areas. I've said this before, that if you don't get anything out of the whole video, try one of these. Next time you do a wet sand out, I think you'll be impressed. So we're about halfway. I've got the whole bottom done. This we did the other day. I'm going to split this up into several panels, but you can see all that orange peel and all of that, that'll all come out. See, that's the beautiful part of doing this, if you do it similar to how I'm doing it, is all of the things that would normally matter don't really matter as long as you're constantly sanding it down and getting it flat. In the end, it comes out perfect. And this tool, one of the best ones you can ever have. Now that our sanding is done, we have three steps actually left to do here. Damp paper towel. This gets off all the soapy material. I'll give that a minute to dry, and then I'll go over the whole part with a tack rag. And then the last thing is there's a couple little spots I have to touch up. And if I skip that step somewhere down the road, I'm going to be really sorry. So the tack rag step, very important, of course. But I don't want to use the tack rag on all that soapy residue. This is after I've removed all the residue. This hopefully will prep us up. Now, the very last thing, and I learned this the hard way many times. The very last thing, I'm going to go get my touch-up paint. A couple little spots I want to touch up because I want that to, as I'm mixing the clear, I want that to dry and then quick cover it with clear. It's always hard to convince people that it's worth doing these little touch-ups every step of the way. Every step. Because when you get to the end, you bury it in clear. It doesn't matter when you do the touch-up, right now or early on, that's going to get buried in clear. And if I remember where these extra spots are, what's going to be real handy for me, I can just shoot just a little extra clear on it. And if you didn't think you could do this conveniently, you could always put a tape edge up, and that would be okay. But I always think if you pay the price now, in the end, when that job is finished and it's sitting out in the sun, all this little effort pays off. And it's usually around the edges that you have a problem. And I remember in modeling being very disappointed. Oh, I sanded through. Oh, I sanded through. Because you're trying to make a much thinner finish. But the reality is it doesn't matter at all. Once it's buried and clear. Now here's a good example. This whole front edge needs just, oh my God, just a little. And I know not many people are going to see this except for me or Luciano. Somebody will see it. But it's still worth doing. Now this will dry in 5 minutes while I'm mixing up the clear. We're going to mix up some 5-star clear. The last time Karen came down, it was coming up over freezing. So that would mean we're definitely going to have a nice flow out of the paint. That's done. No matter how small these things are, in the end result, you'll see them. I'll see them. And I think when you paint, you got to paint to please yourself more than whoever, Pokey or somebody, Jose, who the hell knows. Okay, so that gets me ready. Time to mix clear. Now this is the clear coat we've been using. And the video before this, I put a lot of information about clear on for some of the people that might be new. I noticed we have several people from Asia that are now subscribing. Hey, I hope they get this interpreted well. So one of the things I did last time, I just took some clear and shot clear around here, hoping that it would blow some of the dust away and this would act like fly paper if any other stuff came floating along. It seemed to minimize the dust, and it seems like a good thing to do. I'm going to do it on this part also. Now while that's drying up, I'm not sure you can really appreciate, unless like me you're watching YouTube on a big screen, widescreen, high-def TV. But that is, when I think about what we started with this part, all of the work, all of the Bondo, all of the sanding, and now all in 1 minute, it all comes that it's worth it to me. And maybe it's worth it to you too, to have this. That is just the decals are absolutely perfect. The paint lines are crisp. And a day like today, not much dust is going to blow in there because the wind isn't really blowing much. Now, I'm going to let that tack up about a half an hour under these conditions, a half an hour minimum. I'll shoot Steve's parts. I mixed up plenty of clear. Boy, I just could sit and look at that all day long. And a week from now or so, that'll be buffed out. That'll be a world-class finish. And we did it all without a spray booth, without $1,000 guns, and without getting paid. Anyway, hope some of this information helps you if you're a hobbyist like I am. Now we got all of Steve's parts done. Want to see how the paint is laying out. Oh yeah. Yeah, Steve will be happy. There's a couple little mistakes on that. There's a mistake on a fender here, a little flaw, I don't know. You never know with this, what could happen under these uncontrolled conditions. But the point is you can always recover from it. There's always the choice, you sand it out and put another coat of clear on it. That's a good lesson to learn too, by the way. This will be a little extra clear over that decal, his club decal. Now I know Steve appreciates the work we put into this, the quality work. And it's officially right now above freezing, 33 degrees on the garage thermometer. Wow, it's like summer. Boy, that worked out great. Well, we're pretty much at the end of spraying paint on this project, hopefully, unless we have to touch something up. The way that seems like a good tip, to spray everything around this area with a little bit of clear. And boy, these parts, this last part, not a speck of dust in it. Should make the buffing a week from now so much easier. Of course, I like to end every day. I like to check how everything's drying up. Oh my God. If you remember, and we're into the 4th month. We're officially into the 4th month of this restoration. Probably got another month to go, maybe a month and a half. But if you remember what we started with, the cracks, the delamination, parts missing, chunks missing, and what we have now. And I am just so happy that we got to this part. Yeah, we pretty much are done with spraying the paint, except maybe for touch-ups. But if you've picked up some good information from this, and if you love these old motorcycles, and if you like to do your own restorations, and it doesn't matter if you live in Asia or if you live in who knows where, we're glad to share it with you. And thanks for watching.